Hello and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I'm Thiago Da Costa. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Toric. We're a data company working primarily with general contractors. Today I have the pleasure to be talking to Maribeth Achterberg from the Boldt Company. Maribeth is joining me from Milwaukee, and I'll love you to start with a quick introduction, and then we'll dig into the questions.
Well, thank you, Thiago. It's good to be here with you and with CDO Magazine today. I am the CIO and CTO of the Boldt Group and the Boldt Company, which is a 134-year-old general contractor and construction management company, mainly based out of Appleton, but they have 17 offices across the United States.
And can you tell us a little bit about your journey before joining the Boldt Company, and how did you come to be their CIO and CTO?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've spent a couple of decades in the IT and engineering world, and in different industries. So I've worked in transportation, I've worked in utilities. I was a consultant for a while and actually owned my own consulting practice for a decade, and have 10 years of experience in manufacturing for both Johnson Controls and Molson Coors Beverage Company. At Johnson Controls, I was in IT as well as in engineering operations. And then at Molson Coors, I was the VP of solution delivery. And both of those companies have global presence. And so I had people in the organization across the globe. I had an opportunity to come to the Boldt Company, and it was an exciting opportunity for me because it was a role that sits on the executive team for an industry that's a little bit further behind from an IT and data perspective than some of the other industries I mentioned. Some people here at the Boldt Company have said that they believe they're 50 years behind manufacturing. I think that might be unkind. I think we're not that far behind, but it is a consensus in the industry, and you probably would agree that construction is a little further behind in the use of technology and data. So to me, it was an opportunity to solve some big problems. And also, because of the advent of AI, I believe that data is finally getting its day in the sun. And to not to mix metaphors, but I think it's time to land the data plane and say, this really is important, and data really is the thing that IT should be concerned about on a daily basis.
That's great. And when you joined the company, was there already anybody interested in data? Like, how was the environment when you came in and start talking about all of this?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of interest in data because when you work for a construction management company, which primarily is construction management, it's all about knowledge, it's knowledgeable people, and it's about information. And so everybody wants to solve the data issue, but they're solving it in their own silo and in their own project in their own way. And really, for data to be considered an enterprise asset, you have to have enterprise ways of thinking about data and ways of working around data. You know, we have a very small team of people dedicated to analytics at this point, just a couple of people. And so when you think about where the company wants to go in the future and where construction's going and how you leverage the rich amount of information and data that they have in the systems that they use, you really need to have a cohesive strategy on how you leverage data as an asset for the organization. And so having a seat at the table at the executive team level, it affords me the opportunity to have those conversations. This is a brand new role that's not been at the executive team level before.
So interesting. And then like this leadership coming in with this ask for you to join the company and take this to the next level. So how did you start thinking about some of these new waves that we're seeing outside of construction, such as AI and data? Like, how do you think it relates to the business that construction companies are in today?
Yeah, it's really interesting. You know, every building that we build has a digital twin. And not everybody thinks about the fact that this is actually a digital twin. You create this drawing, you can look at 3D views and 3D models of these buildings and how all the different systems fit together and how the trades should be working. We have technology that will, you know, pin clouds that they can look at the design and then walk the floor to make sure things are happening with cameras and AI and stitch it all together. When I think about the parallels in manufacturing, so we do things in manufacturing now where we've got sensors on machines and they're sending back information about maybe motor failures. And when you think about a large construction project, like building a hospital or a multi-story building or a huge distribution center for manufacturing, there's heavy equipment that gets used over and over again. And if something like that fails, it costs millions of dollars when you wait for a replacement part to come. And so could you do preventative maintenance analysis and have a part there waiting because you know that this particular gear or motor or something is going to fail? So some of the parallels in manufacturing, things that I've done in my past are extendable, and applicable to the way that we build buildings. Um, and some of the manufacturing ways of working are filtering back into construction, having assemblies or sub-assemblies in a manufacturing environment, not always on site being built, stick built or built from scratch. And when you think about the technology that you use in manufacturing that then can be applied in these sub-assembly units or modular units, there's starting to be more parallels as we think about different ways of construction, so we can improve the cycle time and reduce the time to value for the owner and the occupant of that particular building.
And do you think the owners are demanding that sort of intelligence and better operations from construction management companies and general contractors? Do you think that is coming down now from the owners as well? Or you think is like we're pushing that rock uphill as it comes down to like leveraging more technology?
I think it depends on the sector, that particular owner of the building that's being built sits. And I think perhaps in healthcare, they might be a little more advanced. But it actually is a meeting in between the owner and the construction company about the different types of technologies or the way data is used. Ultimately, the owner wants the building built on time and under budget. And anything that you can do to improve time to value is a good thing. And really, the cycle times are reduced by leveraging data, lessons learned from the past, understanding where you can improve quality and cycle time. Those are all things that we've talked about in manufacturing for a really long time. And so I believe that those ideas are extendable into construction management and construction in general.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. There's lots of parallels to be drawn from manufacturing. I came from a manufacturing company as well, from manufacturing experience in the past. So there's lots of parallels, interesting parallels between construction and manufacturing. Definitely is a little behind in construction, but for different reasons. I guess manufacturers have the benefit of building the same thing 10,000 times when construction projects are one-offs every time. So that's like a huge difference. Very rarely you're going to make the exact same building. Um,
True, but look, there's components that
yeah,
you build the same time, the same
yeah,
way, typically. And when I worked for Johnson Controls, they had different types of manufacturing depending on the product. So one of the product lines was large industrial chillers, and those were built one at a time. And there's still ways that you can perfect that process and use data to make sure that you don't, perhaps decrease the quality of the product, right? There's different ways that you can test that product that are similar. So even if it's not process manufacturing, like where I worked prior, where we're making beverages, that is the same thing, like in high volume. There's still cell manufacturing or building one unit. So if you think about that and extend it into construction, there are components of a building that even if the building is designed differently, there's still components that you can reuse. And that's kind of extending that whole manufacturing thought process into construction and construction management. And you do that by leveraging data, right? And making sure that you're leveraging those data assets so you can decrease the time to value. And that's really what the manufacturing concept is about.
Incredible. Yeah. Um, so you're talking about leveraging data, and I'm thinking, what are the challenges that you see in both as a company, but also like across the industry? Like, what are some of the challenges you see harnessing data today? I guess compared to your past experience, but also like just from the lens of like, what's the construction industry at today, and where does it need to get to be able to harness data?
Well, it's interesting because I think the reason why we have challenges in data is not specific to any industry. I think it's people centric challenges. And they're the same challenges regardless of which industry you're working in. I think it's understanding that data is an asset that has value and may even in some cases be saleable. And so if you think about how you nurture all the aspects of a product you might sell, but we don't even think about that in terms of our data, there's a disconnect in the way people think about that digital twin, that digital project. It's not digital exhaust. It's actually usable, saleable assets. And most companies I worked in before AI, so I think AI has been a huge accelerator in large language models in particular, generative AI. They didn't even think about their data as an asset. They valued the chair you sat in more than you did the data, which I find it's just so sad, right? And a lot of that is driven by generally accepted accounting practices. So there's a challenge, and I know people in this data space have been pressing on that to change. But this whole concept, I think, is how people think about data is more of an issue for me as I've worked in different industries than it is really industry specific in construction. We generate data in silos, and sometimes it's function specific, sometimes it's project specific or product specific, and we don't tend to see the connections or the similarities in the information or the data that we're creating in terms of when we create a product that we think is the thing that has value. And so for me the challenge is the people and helping them understand that, look, yes, your function does this and that data is important, but did you know that also is very important for marketing to understand? Or hey, that's also very important for HR to be aligned with you on that data, and getting all of these functions on the support side in a place where they're literate about that data. So to me, the challenge is of people. Are they literate? Do they understand how this information or data is used across the whole value chain from the beginning to the end? Do they understand whether or not it's part of a product that creates revenue? And at the very least, do you understand that that's creating more churn if you don't align from a data governance standpoint, in that this data will cause you to spend more money, so eroding your profit. So it's really the people. It's not really specific to an industry. It's just the way we think about things. We have to change that, right? This is a cultural misalignment as as in an organization, and how IT has not really taken ownership of the fact that data is an asset. This is really a cultural misalignment in the fact that we just think about the information that we create as exhaust rather than an asset to be nurtured and managed. And not thinking from an IT perspective beyond systems that we put in place.
Thank you. This was very good. Thanks, Maribeth, for joining me today. For more interviews, please visit the CDO Magazine Tech website. We have done lots of different interviews with key leaders in the industry. So thank you for joining me today, and
Thank you. I enjoyed it.